Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to the June hearing of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Welcome, everybody. I'll quickly run through our format. Typically, we have 3 cases today, 2 City of Valdosta cases and 1 Lowndes County case. We'll start with the City of Valdosta cases. We'll ask staff to come up and report on the case, give the board the details. If you've got any interest in that case, I ask you to pay attention to what staff's telling us. We'll give you the opportunity as the applicant to come up and speak on behalf of yourself, your case. We'll also ask for anybody in the audience that may be in favor of the case. You'll have an opportunity to speak as well. Likewise, the opposition will have an opportunity to speak. There'll be discussion among the board, and hopefully we'll be able to reach an agreement here today. We'll call for the vote and reach an agreement here today. There have been a few cases, not recently, but that have not been decided in this particular month, or in the particular month they were presented. We have the right to table those pending further information should we feel that we need it, but that's unlikely. So we'll start if staff's ready with the first City of Valdosta case. Application 2012-06 regarding Academy Sports.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hope everyone's had an opportunity to sign in the back and get the agenda and the standards representing the zoning power. Tracy's going to operate the PowerPoint for us this time, and I may scoot over here because I'm right under the speaker. Getting a little bit of feedback. Both of your city cases on your agenda this month were tabled from last month. You have last month's packet. You also have an addendum for this month's packet. I think you all got copies. We do have a couple extras if we need some more of those, but those were emailed out to you. The first case, actually both of these cases are variances to the same sections of the LDR in the sign regulations chapter. So there's a lot of similarity between the two of them. And I think, Mr. Chairman, when we get into it, maybe since staff's recommendations are a little bit different on each of the code sections being varied, that perhaps we consider each variance separately when we get to it. But the first item is variance request by ID Associates. This is for the new Academy Sports retail store, which is currently under construction. They're requesting variance from section 230-9D4 as pertains to the maximum size of the wall signs, and also variance to section 230-11B as it pertains to the location of a high-rise identification sign. And this property is located at 455 Norman Drive. It is diagonally across the street from the Sam's Club. It is part of a very large property, over 93 acres. It is just now beginning to develop with a lot of retail uses. This is the first store to go in. In your packet from last month, you'll see there's a master plan that shows conceptually what may be coming there in the future. The property itself has been recently subdivided. It's on about 8.5 acres of land. It's also in highly commercial. There's the subject site. You see there's commercial zoning all the way around. This is part of the Norman Drive corridor between exit 16 and 18. There in the imagery, you see the Sam's Club diagonally to the southwest. And this is what the subject property used to look like up until just a few weeks ago. They're actively building the store. Across the street, you see the Sam's Club with its signage on the wall, and then Walmart, and then the bank, and then the vacant lot next to Sam's, which is straight across the street. And that's actually proposed for future parking for Sam's. They have an expansion that may be coming. In the packet, I want to start with the packet from last month, which gives a little bit more of the detailed information before we jump up to this month. signage request. See on that front page, there's some specifications that list the different sizes of the sign. Academy Sports is back about 350 feet from the street. The width of the building is 278 feet. And initially they were proposing over 700 square feet of wall signage. Now the code requirement is 1 linear foot of signage, 1 square foot of signage area per linear foot of building. So normally a 278 foot wide building would be 278 square feet of signage. However, the code does have a maximum allowance of 250 square feet per wall per sign. So even if the wall is very wide, 250 square feet is the maximum. And that's not for one sign, that's for all signs on that facade. But you can have wall signs on each of the facades. What we're showing here on that first page is a comparison. When you see Academy Sports with what they were proposing, Sam's Club across the street, 330 feet setbacks is very similar. They're a little bit wider, but they comply with the LDR. They have 228 square feet of wall signage on their front wall. Nearby is the Walmart down on Norman Drive. It's a little bit larger building, a little bit wider, sits further back. That was the subject of a variance case 8 years ago, where they were granted some extra wall signage. And then just for comparison, we put the Walmart on the north side of town in there, where you see they're also a very large building, but they too comply with the wall signage requirement. They only have 194 square feet on their front wall. Last month, the applicant had requested tabling of this so they could reconsider their proposal. And what they have done is reduce the amount of wall signage that they are proposing. And so that brings us to this month's addendum. And on the front page of that, they recalculated their math on how the signage area was to be determined. There were some extra spaces in there that they were adding that was counting against them, so they have eliminated that. And so they have in fact gone from 377 square feet down to 289 square feet for the main sign, which actually for the front wall would be 473 down to 362. If you look at their signage, you see there's the main sign here, which is the bulk of their signage area. They're also proposing 2 logo signs, which some would count it as building decoration, but because it is a corporate logo, it is counted as signage. So those 2 logos is bumping them up a little bit higher over the limit. On the side wall, which is the next one, we have one sign here, and it is below the code requirement. They're only proposing 178 square feet, and only 250 would be allowed. For signage area variances, it's particularly difficult to prove or justify a legitimate hardship or to not base it on self-imposed conditions, because this is brand new development where all the conditions are self-imposed and there's no true hardship. Staff cannot overtly support such a variance to wall signage area. However, the applicant has worked diligently to reduce their amount of proposed wall signage to be a lot closer to meeting code requirements. And as a means of compensation with that side wall, they're proposing to limit themselves voluntarily to something less than what the code would normally require. I guess in essence, commute that signage area to the front wall. So in other words, we are finding their revised proposal reasonable, although in sign variances world, it's very hard to justify a hardship for that, but they are making a very good effort. The building is large. You go back to the other facade. This is smaller than it was originally proposed, and it is really the logo signs here that is pushing them up over the limit. So with that, staff reluctantly is recommending approval of the wall signage variance with 3 conditions. Those are on the second page of your packet. The first one is wall signs for the front facade shall be approved with increased signage area based on the revised signage schematic drawings. The maximum area allocations as follows. The main wall sign at 290 square feet. The logo sign and other wall signs requiring a permit at 73 square feet total. And that's for all other signs on the front wall besides the main sign. Number 2, wall signs for the south facade shall be limited to a maximum total of 179 square feet. Wall signs for all other walls, north and south, actually north and east, requiring a permit shall be incidental for purposes of loading docks and doorways, and shall be limited to no more than 25 square feet cumulative on each wall. We anticipate around the loading area, a lot of times there's a small sign there labeling, so we don't want to preclude them of that, but we are considering that as extra exchange for having additional signage on the front. Number 3, the high-rise identification sign, and this gets into the next variance. Now, we can talk about that now and then act on it later, or we can just have a separate discussion. And they are very different issues involved here.
What's the board's desire on that, to vote separately, 1 and 2 together and 3 separate? Do y'all have a desire to talk about 3 at this point, or you want to move forward with 1 and 2?
Move forward 1 and 2.
Okay.
Okay. And that's it for the wall signs. Any questions on these so far?
So that I'm clear, it is staff's recommendation to approve 1 and 2 with the conditions that you.
Yes, sir. The wall signage variance as requested with those first 2 conditions approved.
Okay. Any questions for staff and the board? Thank you, Matt. We'll ask that the representative from Academy Sports.
Good afternoon.
If you will, state your name.
Bill Nigel, 1007 North Patterson Street, Valdosta, Georgia. Here on behalf of Academy Sports, Mr. Matt Martin did a wonderful job and took a lot of my information away from me. So he was very thorough, and there's really not much to add other than, I'd like to say, and Mr. Martin touched on it, this building does sit a ways back from the road. There's probably about 2 acres of parking in front of it. And so that's a large part of the need for a larger sign. And it's also a very large building. We're bumping up to the max that's allowed because of that under the ordinances. Also, and y'all are aware of this, but there's a lot of negative connotations that come with signs these days, and we're not talking about billboard signs here or outdoor advertising signs. I mean, we're not talking about off-site advertising. We're talking about marketing signs and advertising on premises. So, with that said, I'm here to answer any questions y'all have about these wall signs, and happy to entertain any questions now.
Any questions from the board? No? Thank you.
We'll move on to the pole sign. Or do y'all want to know?
Yeah, is there anyone here in opposition to anything you've heard from the applicant's request? Any opposition? Has there been any opposition at your office, to your office, emails?
No, sir. We've not had any communication from anyone on either of these variances, actually.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve as requested the sign variances for the front facade and the sign, so 1 and 2 various requests. Motion to approve as requested.
Second.
With the conditions that the staff suggested?
Yes, that's what he's saying.
Okay.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Obviously, no opposed, approved unanimously.
Okay, the second variance, Tracy, there we go. I think maybe Tracy, the slide right before that is the site plan. There we go. In your packet, for last month and this month, they had a site plan. Originally, the high-rise sign they were proposing to go in the front yard along Norman Drive. It met the size requirement of 250 square feet or less, and the height requirement they were proposing at 875 feet. Staff is very much opposed to that. The intent of the high-rise identification signs is to separate them from the local street system. In other words, get them back off of the local streets and up, so they're not in the same visual area as when you're driving down, say, Norman Drive or St. Augustine Road. Hence, the requirement for high-rise identification signs is that they be located in the rear yard setback area, be at least 75 feet above grade, no more than 200 feet, and limited to 250 square feet. So the issue with them is simply location, not size or height. We have been having several discussions with the applicant this past month, and they are now proposing for the sign to be located behind the building in the rear yard area. Okay, it's technically not the rear setback, that would be the north or the eastern 12 feet of the property to comply with the letter of the code, but it's certainly the rear yard of the building. So the variance is for a high-rise sign to be located not quite in the rear setback. what they're proposing meets the code in every other aspect in terms of height and size. The hardship here is this is a drainage facility. There's wetlands along the stream. There's also a stream buffer. And putting a signage structure in that type of environment is just not going to work, or certainly not allowed. They're certainly meeting the intent. It's in the rear yard behind the building. So they are, and it's over 100 feet off of what is to be a new street. This actually is proposed to be the new Langford Drive, extending through to Norman. So one of the concerns we had is we wanted it away from this road, so it would not be confused with signage along that road. So staff is recommending approval of this one with that last condition that's there on the second page. It's that the high-rise on each side shall be located in the rear yard area as depicted on the signage site plan, and at least 100 feet from the south property line. I think they're still fine-tuning the exact location of it. There's some underground utilities that is part of their site design, but I think within just a few feet of that is where it is going to be. Any questions on this one?
I have a question.
Yes.
The point of the sign that is so high in the air is so you can see it from the highway, right?
Correct. This is about 1,400 feet from I-75. It's a long ways. It's barely within that 1,500-foot corridor along I-75, which is where we allow these signs. They have to be at least 500 feet apart from another sign of this nature. So they comply with all of that. They're just a long ways from the interstate. And we do have some others that are like that. The Hilton, for example, at exit 18 is pretty far from the interstate as well, and they're up almost 200 feet, I think 150 feet is their sign height.
So with the exception of the location, everything else is in compliance?
Everything is in compliance except that it's not in the rear setback. It is simply in the rear yard behind the building.
Okay.
So it's now a very minor variance for them.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Any questions for me up here to answer? Once again,
Assuming you don't object to the staff recommendation.
we do not, and we're comfortable with the condition that's imposed. So,
Thank you. Anyone here to speak in favor of the applicant's request? Any opposition regarding the sign? Yes, sir. Could you come to the lectern and give us your name and address for the record?
My name is Marcus Spence, and I live right there on Murray Avenue at the end, 1603 Myrtle. And my only concern is I don't want to look out my window and see a big old Academy sign. I mean, if it's going to be, how tall is it, 1,400 feet, or how tall is it? I mean, I don't want a billboard hanging over my house.
Can you back up and give us a reference point on the map where your home is located?
I'm right off of St. Augustine, down past, if you're familiar with St. Augustine, Thomas Collision, I'm at the end of Myrtle, at the dead end, last time on the left. And the west side of the end of my house, property rather, is a small tree line, then it's open field, the wetlands and stuff is, and then I think it's going to get cabin. And like I say, I just don't want to, I mean, I don't have no problem with the sign, I just don't want to see it, when I lay in my bed at night. So that's my only problem.
I have a question. For those of us who are not familiar with the reference points today, about how far would you be from the sign, your house, in terms of?
Well,
Tracy, can you go to the next map? We may be able to see it on that. Yeah, on that one. Can you see it on that one? No, it's not close enough.
In your packet is the zoning location map, it has a lot of red on it.
this is my
You're
property.
down here, this is my property.
He's here.
I'm the rest of my name.
Okay, now where, show me your house and where the,
This is me here. This property right here. And this is the property here. So the sign be back here, if it's gonna be so tall that I can see it at my bedroom window, then yes, I'm opposed to it.
What's the height again, Mr. Martin?
It's 120 feet, I think.
I'm being lazy. I have to look.
No, theirs is 10.
sir, could you tell me your name again?
Marcus Spence.
Mr. Smith, Mr.
Spence.
Spence. So you would always see that sign though, since you're so close, even if it were, you know, even if it was a street.
I mean, if the tree line there, I believe, well, I mean, according, you know, how tall over the trees is gonna be. Is it gonna be another 10 feet over the trees? Then it should not be a factor. I don't want nothing sticking, or way out like a
It's
sore
on
thumb.
the other side of the trees from you.
Well, see, this is the tree line here, right?
Correct.
So I'm back over this way,
Right.
back, about here, and I'm back over
You're
here.
back over here. This is 500 feet, so you're 800 feet away from it. And it's on the other side of the trees.
Well, this is the property here, right?
Correct.
So
So it's gonna be right about there.
the tree line there, and then I'm right over, I'm in the field. As long as it's not, you know, like some of these signs, like big eyesore when you going down the road and stuff, I mean, I just don't wanna.
Well, and understand too, Mr. Spence, that by right, they should be putting it in the rear yard setback, which would actually be putting it closer. I mean, they can do that.
Mhm.
The problem is that there's a retention area and there's an easement there, so they're actually asking, can they put it closer to the building
Oh, okay.
versus the property line? So
So I'm just concerned about the height of the sign.
It's actually over 1,000 feet. This property's here. This is 500 feet. So
In acreage, what would you say that parcel
this
weighs?
is 97 acres.
So he will see the sign, he'll see the sign, or he won't choose.
If he sees it, I think it would be just barely above the trees.
Can we go to that picture that had the trees on it again? How tall are those trees in that buffer?
Are they mature
The
trees?
mature trees.
Are we talking
Down along
80
the
feet?
stream area. It's the
Pine?
hardwoods.
Pine trees?
Hardwoods.
So he'll see just barely the top of that sign.
I'm guessing the trees are 80 or 90 feet, so it'll be above them. But 1,000 feet